Welcome to our expert insight and welcome to our industry stage here on Formnext 2023. I'm very happy to have you all here at the booth, and I'm very happy to have you all at the live stream outside. Yeah, today, we will have a very interesting industry day here on the industry stage, as the name says. But today we will covering emerging markets, not the old business, everybody knows about, like automotive or manufacturing. Here for additive manufacturing, topics like bioprinting, like pharmaceutical printing, like personalized medicine are really new. And I'm very happy to have a first expert here on stage because she will show us how additive manufacturing will revolutionize healthcare with 3D-printed personalized medicine. And I'm talking about Anna Worsley, Dr. Anna Worsley. She's Director of Innovation at Fabricate. And Anna is a medtech specialist, and her company is focused on developing 3D printing technology for fabricating pharmaceuticals and medical devices. Today we will talk about the medical itself. Now we are talking about the devices. Anna, I'm very glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Please show us what are you doing in pharmaceutical and medtech. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So I'll just wait for the slides to come up. Great, so my name's Anna. Thank you for having me here today as well. So I'm from Fabricate, which is a small startup company based in the UK, although we do have some labs as well in Spain, but I'll just get straight into it. So this slide deck's actually usually for more of a pharmaceutical audience, but so you guys probably already know much more about 3D printing than my normal audience do. But basically, obviously, it's for the bespoke objects and rapid prototyping. And what we're interested in is medicine, so people. So everyone is different, and so you'd expect everyone to have the same, to have different medication to fit themselves. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Most medicine is one size fits all, and that can be quite problematic. 3D printing is a growing field in healthcare, which is great. Tissue engineering is very exciting, so biomaterials to try and develop scaffolds for cells. This is for implants, for organ transplants, things like that. Dentistry, obviously, it's already very well implemented for braces, that kind of thing. Prosthetics and medical devices, for example, for ears. Still already a growing, developed field, but we are only, in Fabrics, we're mainly interested in 3D printed tablets or pharmaceutics. So what can you do with pharmaceutical 3D printing? So the main interest for healthcare, for pharmaceutics, is dose. So the size of the tablet is directly proportional to the dose because you have a set concentration in the formulation that you've developed. And so with that, you can have a very exact dose. So that's very important for very highly potent drugs. So we say a low therapeutic index. Basically, if the concentration is too high, you're going to get overdosing. If it's too low, you're not going to get the treatment that you need, that you've been prescribed. So you need a very exact dose. And that's also very important for patient groups like pediatrics, where every size child needs a different dose. And most of these doses aren't commercially available. So they need personalizing. You can also have unique patterns. So we've got some images at the top with Braille and QR codes for tracking purposes. Obviously, you don't want to give the wrong pill to the wrong patient. There's also complex release profiles for the different drugs. So you could have different drugs with different release profiles, so immediate release versus extended release. Some drugs need to be released in the stomach, where some need to be released in the lower digestive system as well. So that can all be integrated into the same tablet with 3D printing. And then I've already touched upon this, but polypills. So this is quite important for geriatrics. This is a very interesting population that would like this very much. Basically, having multiple drugs in the same tablet. So if you can imagine you're taking 7 drugs a day, so polypharmacy, 7 different tablets or more, that's not very nice. It's really bad for treatment adherence. Basically, patients don't want to take the medication because they don't want to take 7 tablets a day. So with 3D printing, you can combine that into one tablet, make it easier for them, make it friendly, kind of improve patient well-being. And then in the same line of thought, you can also have personalized color, personalized flavor, and personalized formulation type to really improve the treatment adherence. because there's no point prescribing a medication to someone if they're not going to take it. And that's actually quite a large problem in pharmaceutics. And actually, an interesting statistic is that 35% of the reason that children, pediatrics, don't take their medication is because it's not nice to take. It's either broken apart or they're taking too many tablets. So we want to improve that with 3D printing. So what are the different applications? I won't go into too much detail on this slide because there's a few more slides to come. But basically, you can automate personalized medicine, like I mentioned. You can also, so this is for humans and veterinary medicine. And we've got different clients who are working on the different use cases. There's also hard-to-reach areas. So we've actually sold a printer to a remote island off the coast of Madagascar, which is very, very cool. Basically, it's hard for them to get commercially available doses. So the idea is that they can make their own from kind of the raw ingredients and print them. And then something that we're very excited for, obviously, is space missions, but I think everyone can be quite excited by that. And then finally, drug development. So with 3D printing, you can really produce very rapidly small batches to improve the drug development pathway. So Fabric's was founded in 2014 because of this shift towards personalised medicine. So the NHS in England, the National Health Service, reported in 2016 that 40 to 70% of these one-size-fits-all doses are ineffective. So that patients aren't getting the treatment that they actually need. And that's because it's either underdosed or it's overdosed. And actually, the overdosing causes increased side effects, and that leads to 1 in 15 hospital admissions in the UK because of adverse drug reactions. So it's quite a large problem. And it's predicted that if we fix this and we fully personalize medicine, that over $500 billion annually can be saved in the US alone. So obviously, it's a big market, not just for improved patient well-being, but also in healthcare in general for the industry. And it's now being pushed by leading regulatory authorities. So the NIH in America, the FDA is also looking into this, the MHRA in the UK, the EMA in the EU, and the World Health Organization as well, are all reporting this need, reporting that we need to invest more money, do more research, and really push this agenda. So how do we personalize medicine at the moment? It's actually already done in a number of different hospitals across the world. There's actually 4,500 hospitals who are doing this actively in the EU and over 6,000 in the US, so it's a big market. It's actually $8.6 billion worldwide. And currently it's done by hand, so very unautomated. You're crushing tablets, you're breaking them apart, you're taking multiple, weighing out powders, weighing out granules, and filling them into capsules. And this is done by compounding or specials manufacture. It's different names across the world, obviously, depending on the language that you choose. But it's done by hand by compounding pharmacists. So you need specific licenses to do this in your hospital pharmacy or your compounding pharmacy. And it's needed for patients who are prescribed a dose that's not commercially available. So pharmaceutical 3D printing. We can automate this compounding process, so we can very easily and safely get a very precise dose, meaning that these compounding pharmacists can now do it in an automated fashion, just by pressing a button and putting in the dose that they need for the patients and printing them. It also increases the personalization options available by allowing you to have different colors and flavors. By having different kind of pre-filled cartridges, you can have different colors and flavors very easily that the pharmacist can then just pick and choose depending on the patient's preferences. It's more environmentally friendly because it's a decentralized manufacturing technique compared to other mass manufacturing techniques for medication. So this is what we call the virtuous cycle of personalized medicine. And basically, we like to think that as you go around the cycle, it improves. So you gather data, patient data. You can improve the prescription by making it more personalized to the patient. You can very easily tweak the dose if the patient needs a new dose. So this is very common for a lot of treatment pathways, that the patient comes in for a blood test every week. Sometimes more often, they get a blood test, they get a new dose, and they have a new compounded prescription. So that can be fully automated with 3D printing. And then obviously to do this, we need a lot of modern hardware and software, and that's what we're working on. And then just a go into it again. So as well as personalized medicine, there's also the clinical trial batch manufacture. And with this, you have the small batches. You can rapidly modify the dose, and you can speed up the clinical trial process because of this, which reduces costs all around for the industry, so the company doing the clinical study, and then right down to the hospital buying the medication in the future. So this all sounds very futuristic, but it is actually coming into, it's becoming a reality across the world. So right now, technically, it does fit under compounding regulation 3D printing, but because it's not a perfect fit, and because it's a very new technology in the pharmaceutics field, people aren't quite sure how to regulate it on a larger scale. When you're putting multiple printers in each hospital, and maybe you're having multiple hospitals in a city or in a country, for example, how are you going to regulate that? And that's very important when you're talking about medicines. And so the UK, the US, and the European regulatory bodies are all working together to produce the same regulation or very similar regulation for everyone to follow. And this is for point-of-care manufacturing, so which is what 3D printing falls under. And basically, it's going to be a hub and spoke model where there'll be a regulatory hub, which will then kind of ensure regulatory compliance for the spokes, which will be the actual 3D printing locations in hospital pharmacies, local pharmacies in the future, for example. And that will allow, it'll be easier to check for regulatory compliance, giving more confidence to pharmacists who want to implement this into their pharmacies. So obviously, being at a 3D printing conference, you probably all know all the different 3D printing technologies, so I won't go into detail, and I don't expect you to be able to see this table, obviously. But something to note is there is one 3D printed tablet which is FDA approved. It's the only regulatory approved tablet in the world, and that was by a company called Aprecia in America. The drug is called Spiritam. It's for epilepsy, and they use binder jetting. So basically, it's a powder bed, and a glue mixture is deposited where they want the 3D model to be produced, and then a new layer of powder gets put across, more glue, and then it obviously builds up into your 3D tablet. So this is on a mass manufactured scale, so they're not doing personalized medicine, but they're doing it because with binder jetting, you can get very fast oral disintegration times, which is obviously great for epileptic fits, where the patient, obviously having a fit, you want to be able to put the tablet in their mouth and for it to dissolve or disintegrate extremely quickly. So that's why that one is so good for that. And then Fabrics, the company that I'm from, we focus on extrusion-based technology, so I'll go into that now. So these are our 3D printers. The smaller one is actually the world's first GMP pharmaceutical 3D printer in the world. So we're very proud of that. And then that was launched in 2020. And we've also got the MediMaker 2, which is the larger one, which is basically a 3 print head printer as opposed to a 1 print head printer. We have an exchangeable print head system, which means that you can have multiple technologies for the same printer, which is very useful for pharmacies, for example, because they don't have much space. There's lots of machines already in pharmacies, lots of storage, so that you don't want to have multiple printers for the different drugs. And we find that with different drugs, you need different technologies. So you pick the technology depending on the drug and depending on the release profile that you want. And that's all in the formulation development process. So we have FDM 3D printing, we have semi-solid extrusion for pastes or gels, and that's really good for pharmaceutics because with pastes you can print at room temperature, which is great for thermally unstable drugs, and then with the gels you can produce chewable tablets, which are really good for children, for example, or people who struggle to swallow tablets or large capsules. And then in the video, we've got direct powder extrusion, which is essentially a mini hot melt extruder. There's a single screw in there melting the pre-mixed powder of drug and pharmaceutical excipients, which are basically filler ingredients like HPC, things like that. So not plastics, essentially. Although you can use things like PLA, you tend not to because they've got quite long disintegration times in the digestive system, which is obviously not great. Not necessarily what you want when you're releasing a drug. Sometimes you do want it, though. So we also have bespoke software called MediMaker Studio. Because it's a pharmaceutical grade 3D printer, you've got to be really careful with regulation. It's got to be CFR 21 compliant. You need full printer control, so either have it at free mode so you can print freely for R&D purposes, and then if you're using it in the clinic, you don't want to be able to print what you want. You need to be very controlled. The user of the printer needs to be fully auditable, tracking everything that they do, everything that they print. Basically, all you want the pharmacist to do is input the dose for the patient, scan the cartridge of the pharma ink, the pre-printed formulation, and then press go, essentially, with the printing protocol already implemented for that specific formulation. We also, at Fabrics, have inbuilt quality control. So we're the only pharmaceutical 3D printing company in the world doing this at the moment. So this is in line with a 3D printer. We've got inbuilt pressure sensing in our semi-solid extruder to allow for quality assurance when you're extruding a gel or a paste. And then we also have an inbuilt balance in our print bed and a near-infrared spectrometer, which is needed for quality control. Basically, after each pill is printed, it's weighed and it's scanned for the drug, to make sure that it's actually there, it's still active, is as designed. So at Fabrics, Fabrics carried out the first clinical study in 2018. This was for a rare metabolic disorder called maple syrup urine disease. Basically, pediatric patients, children, were prescribed isoleucine, which is an amino acid. They were given quite large capsules, which were compounded and filled by hand by pharmacists. The patients struggled to swallow them, so their parents or carers would break open the capsule, put the powder on their food or in their drink, and that was very unpalatable. So the children just weren't taking the medication as prescribed. Sometimes they weren't taking it at all, and obviously that's a big problem when you're talking about diseases and disorders. So we made chewable tablets with different flavors, different colors, and essentially the kids loved it. They wanted to continue on the study, and we continued the study after publication to increase the cohort, which is very exciting. That should be published very soon. And off the back of that successful study, we were able to launch the MediMaker 1 in 2020 using a government grant. And since then, we've won a number of awards. And we've also set up a number of clinical studies around the world with leading hospitals and universities. So one of interest is actually with Gustav Russi, which is the leading oncology or cancer hospital in Europe. I think it's the 4th in the world. So they are carrying out right now the world's largest clinical study for pharmaceutical 3D printing for personalised medicine. This will have over 200 patients. Basically, they're making a polypill combining anti-breast cancer medication with anti-side effect medication with a personalised dose. So they're combining 2 tablets into one and then having an automated production of a personalised dose. So that's very exciting. So hopefully in a few years we'll get the outcome of that one. We sell internationally. We collaborate internationally. We've got distributors in Japan and China, and we're setting another one up in Canada now. And the Pharma 3DPI initiative is a new consortium, which is international, kind of bringing all the stakeholders for pharmaceutical 3D printing together to trying to collaborate and push for regulatory changes, things like that. These are just some of our partners and collaborators. I won't go into too much detail, but basically it shows that we collaborate with people across the board: hardware, software, hospitals, universities, pharma companies, and we're continually looking for new collaborations. And this is what we offer. So we sell or rent the printers depending on the client's needs or the collaborator's needs. Like I mentioned, we have the software as well. And we also do Pharma Ink development. So Pharma Ink is a term that we coined for the pre-printed formulation for pharmaceutics. We do all sorts from just regular consultations all the way up to the full formulation development and testing in clinics. So we're very proud of that. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah, that was very impressive, I think, bringing so important medicine to the people. What about, do you have in mind, or do you are working on other medicines to bring to the people? Because cancer is a very serious thing where you have to go to the hospital where you are in close care, let's say.
Yeah.
But what about other other problems, other healthcare issues?
Yeah, so we're working on a number of different oncology projects. Rare diseases is also another really interesting one because there's a lot of medication, well, a lot of prescriptions that aren't commercially available. So that's why they're compounded and why 3D printing would benefit them. So I won't say all the rare diseases because obviously because they're rare, no one knows what they are in terms of the name. Then there's also there's transplants, oncology, cardiovascular diseases. There's lots of these medications that you're given a very precise dose. You're obviously not going to 3D print medication like paracetamol because you don't need a personalized dose for that sort of thing. So it's going to be for kind of more tough treatments that will be personalized using this technique.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you're thinking about the problems of regulating your products, your machines. Is it easy to switch to another topic, to switch to another disease? Do you have to do all the regulation stuff again?
So it depends on what kind of pathway you're going down. So using the compounding regulation route, in theory, a compounding pharmacist can develop their formulation, do all of the kind of standard analytical tests for a pharmaceutical formulation, like drug release, for example, and how easily a tablet can be broken, called friability. And then they could just give it to their patients who are prescribed a compounded dose. If you want to create a kind of pre-prepared cartridge, you're obviously going to have to talk to the FDA, the EMA, people like that. To be honest, because this is such a new technology, I would always advise going to a regulatory agency to get advice, because every country is different. They always want different things, and it's always good to say, you know, hello, we exist, we're doing this, even though it does technically fit under existing regulation.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I will look at our audience if there is any question from the audience, and I will have a quick look at our Slido tool. You all know that we can have questions here to our experts on stage via Slido. You can use it. There is a QR code next to the stage. I really don't know exactly where it is right now, but we will find it for you when you cannot see it from your point of view. And when you're watching the live stream outside, then you will find the QR code or the code for the Slido question tool right next to the live stream. So make use of it. So when I look at my tablet, I don't see any question at all, but no problem. I think we all have to get familiar with it, and then we can include your questions here on stage. Anna, we will meet again after the next presentation here on stage. So I'm very happy that you will join us then, and then we can go deeper in the one or the other questions.
Great.
So thank you very much for your presentation right now.
Thank you very much.
And we will meet later. But first of all, we will have a short break and a short highlight presentation here at the stage.